The Manhattan high-rise building is in danger of collapse. You can see here, these are columns on the 21st floor that have started to buckle. This happened as of this morning, just a few hours ago, and this prompted officials to evacuate nearby buildings as a precaution.
At a press conference a short time ago, a New York Fire Department official said the building still shows signs that it is moving.
The way this building is constructed, it's a steel frame building, so it would not be a total collapse. It would be more of a localized collapse, but that remains our concern, that it's moving.
Let's get some perspective now with structural engineer Matthew Robles. Matthew, thank you so much for being with us. From what you see of the images that we've shown inside the building of that bent steel, what stands out most to you?
That the column has been completely compromised. If you look there, you can see the flange or the bottom piece is completely torn. And so that column is no longer serving its structural function, which is the definition of failure.
Okay, so as you're seeing the failure of that column, and we see other smaller columns buckling, what are you expecting when we're talking about the possibility of a localized collapse here? What could this look like?
Yeah, it could be a topple over. The problem that you're having is not just at those columns, but the other columns on the inside are now having to make up for the load that's no longer carrying. So the danger isn't just on the outside where the buckling is visible, it's on the inside where you have columns taking additional load to make up for that one.
In cases like this, where you see that kind of buckling, what factors contribute to that happening?
Well, you know, during a renovation, buildings see more load than they're ever going to see because you have the way that the loads are distributed, the foundation are temporarily altered while beams and columns and bracings are being modified. And so when a building's going through a renovation like this, which is the largest in the history of the United States, loads are being distributed all over.
Okay, so as we're looking at this, and it's incredibly alarming, what's also alarming is that they're saying obviously they want to shore it up, but they can't do that until it's stabilized. It's not stable right now. So it seems that they're kind of waiting to see what happens before they can shore it up. Take us through that process. What does stabilization look like? Are they going to get to that point before this topples, and then how do they shore it up?
Well, right now the correct engineering response is exactly what's evacuation, establish an exclusion zone, remote monitoring, survey points, see where the building's moving, and then as soon as you see that movement stop, you start beginning to shore, and that's going to be like heavy steel pipes with big plates. Structural H piles, and eventually modular steel shoring towers. And so I'm sure Dan Ekanashi is the chief structural engineer of the New York Department of Buildings, and I'm sure he's out on site. Super experienced guy. You couldn't get a better guy on the job. And he's right there waiting to see that movement to stop so you can go in and it's safe to shore things up.
Yeah, I imagine folks feel lucky to have someone of that caliber on hand. I wonder what the risks are associated with going into a building like this to stabilize it. It may sound like a silly question, but how do you know that that movement has stopped?
Well, through the survey points, I'm sure they have a LiDAR set up watching the building. And like I said, hopefully the redundancy of the interior columns will allow the building to stop moving. And once the building stops moving or moves to an acceptable point, then you can go in. But there's always a risk. There's always going to be a risk. And that's why, God bless the firefighters and the police for doing the job that they do.
Yeah, indeed. Let's hope those interior columns can bear this load as they're trying to get to the point where they can shore it up. CNN's Gloria Pazmino is near this site, not too near it because there's a whole zone that is set up here, Gloria, which you can tell us about. Officials are updating right now. Are they worried that this could collapse?
That's right, and they've set up a significant security perimeter right around the building out of concern. This all started shortly after 8:30 this morning when someone bricks falling from this building directly behind me. Now, I do want to tell you a little bit about this building because it is actually the former Pfizer Pharmaceuticals headquarters, and it's a building that's been under construction for a while now because it was being converted from office space to apartments. And as part of that conversion, the construction was adding several floors to the top of this building. And from what we can see from the photos that we have gotten from inside this construction site, you can see that some of the beams are buckled and some of the structure that is holding up that construction appears to be giving way. Now, I spoke to some of the construction workers that were inside that building earlier this morning. Two of them told me that they were evacuated shortly after 8 o'clock this morning when they arrived to work. And one of them actually showed me the video from inside the floor where those buckled columns are visible. This is a project that likely has hundreds of construction workers in it. All construction workers were evacuated and everyone has been accounted for. There have been no injuries, but there are several buildings in the perimeter around here that have been evacuated as a safety precaution. So a lot of disruption in this area, which is particularly busy here in Midtown Manhattan. We heard from officials just a short while ago, including New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who said that the building continues to be unstable. Take a listen.
This is a minute-by-minute assessment, and I'm thankful for the work of all of our city workers in doing exactly that from the morning through this moment and then through the rest of the day. And as you heard from our DOB commissioner, the number one focus here is the safety of New Yorkers. We're thankful that at this time there are no injuries, every worker is accounted for, and now we are continuing to assess. As soon as this building is stable, it then opens up the possibilities for us to shore up the building. But until that point, we are still having to measure that.
Now, I do think it's very important to mention here that officials said that all of the construction that was happening inside this building had been approved and permitted. There is, of course, an investigation now underway to try and figure out exactly what resulted in the buckling of these beams. We also heard from the fire chief just a few minutes ago. He said that since the incident was reported this morning, the building has continued to shift and has continued to move, which of course is not something we want to hear, but he also made a very important point. He said because the way this building is constructed, a steel frame building, he said that the concern for a collapse is of a localized collapse, so not a complete collapse of this building. But of course, that still means that the area around the building is a potential hazard for pedestrians and vehicles and everyone that is here, which is why this continues to be closed off to traffic and pedestrians.